Hello, folks. Jai Sri Ram. Well, the disturbing part of what's happening in this country of ours, I hope you had a look at the video from last week. If you haven't, please see it and then look at this one, because this is a continuation of what happened in the previous one. It's strange. You see, last week we dealt with the civil side, your love jihad, your coercion, your Waqf Act 1995, your honey trap, then your bribery trap to convert. All sorts of, not very nice things. And yet it's been going on, always in the news. That was to take our minds off and distract us from what they're actually doing undercover. About 3 years ago, something happened. All the news channels one evening came out with this, that there were 60 million, 6 crore Bangladeshis in India, all illegal migrants, living very happily, creating a big unemployment problem for people who are nationals of India or citizens of India. When the CAA and the NCR came into being, there was furor, mainly because of your opposition parties. Now the opposition parties believe that minorities means Muslims, nobody else. And they've done everything, they've moved heaven and earth to convert all your other minorities, including your SCs, your STs, your OBCs and Dalits, towards Islam. Well, I've explained to you in other videos about this particular problem. In fact, in Kerala they started putting up buildings which are halal certified. Now, from what it seemed, it may mean that non-Muslims are not allowed in those buildings unless they convert. But the main thrust has been into bringing in Bangladeshis by the million. Now remember, 3 years ago, 60 million Bangladeshis. Since then, a whole lot of Rohingyas have come in. And this is particularly disturbing because these are militant people, trained in guerrilla warfare. Because a lot of them have come from Myanmar, where they were thrown out. From the other side, look at what's been happening in Kashmir. Before, it was a motley crowd. The police, the paramilitary forces and the army could deal with them in the Kashmir Valley. Now they've moved to Jammu, which is hilly or mountainous, with a whole network of caves. And that's where these guys are hiding. This is the disturbing part. Why do I say that? Remember the Taliban keeping out of range of the US forces after Bush's invasion, I think 2001, of Afghanistan. Where were they hiding? In the caves of Tora Bora mountains. You see the pattern. Now, are these Pakistani regulars who come in, or are they Talibans who find nothing to do in Afghanistan, so they come here? Now you just see the weaponry that has been captured from them. Machine guns, US made. Were they the ones left behind by the retreating American forces? Or are the Americans feeding these or giving them weaponry and trying to make us believe the Taliban are doing it? You create that disturbance in Jammu and Kashmir, they've suddenly begun it, and they started not by targeting the armed forces, but by targeting and shooting up a busload of pilgrims, unarmed pilgrims, coming home from one of the shrines in Kashmir. Now that makes it a cold-blooded, murderous attack. It's no longer against the army or the police, but unarmed civilians. And it is a very disturbing trend, because now nobody is safe. This is the message that has been put forward. And believe me, we have to take notice. I told you 60 million Bangladeshis had come over 3 years ago, up to 3 years ago. How many more have come in since? Especially with the West Bengal government having an open door policy. Recently, Mamata Banerjee specifically said, all those who want to come across thanks to these disturbances are most welcome. We will look after them. Who gave her the right to do that? Or to even make such a statement? And yet, it tells us that that border is a very porous or open border. Now, what are these Bangladeshis doing? Remember I mentioned last week, the High Court in Jharkhand has directed the state and the central government to please remove these Bangladeshis and send them back, because they're taking over Jharkhand. Various ways. Marrying local girls, this, that and the other. But this time, something very, very disturbing came to light. 2 or 3 days ago. The action begins or starts off in a place called Raebareli district. Remember where Rahul Gandhi was elected? It has been a Congress bastion since God knows when. Sonia Gandhi used to contest elections from there. Now Rahul Gandhi. There was a village there, for instance, which had one Muslim family. And yet that village issued something like 820 or 830 birth certificates. All Muslim families or Muslim names. All of these are from Bangladesh. There is another village, population 8,000, who issued something like 20,000 birth certificates. How? Why? How do 8,000 suddenly give birth to 20,000? And all these 20,000 were Muslims. Now we begin to understand how the Congress and the SP party, Samajwadi Party, managed to get so many victory seats in the Lok Sabha election. Not only that, every seat contested, even those which the BJP won, their vote share was much lower. Now we understand where all these fake birth certificates come in. Because these birth certificates make them Indian citizens. It gives them a history of being part of India or in India. You think one district has already taken care of something like 60 or 70,000. You think of many of the other districts, not just in Uttar Pradesh, but in all the other states. Because I've said before many times, all these Bangladeshis are spread out, not in one place, but in different states, all over the place. This is how they're trying to take over India. They come there, they get this Indian citizenship by getting fake certificates, and then they start their voting pattern. Not only themselves voting in one place, but busloads of them going from one state to another because voting takes place on different dates. So one person may vote 10 times. Or busloads of them, or groups of them, will vote 10 times. Because you see, if they have the relevant papers and they register with PAN cards and Aadhaar cards and driving licenses and maybe, or even ration cards, you can't stop them from voting. Now, once they have this huge base or population base, can you stop them from taking over? Not just the legislatures, both state and central, but also how can you stop them from voting? And if there is a problem, how do you stop them? You can't stop them. Plus, just remember the raids on all these madrasas and mosques. Now, the disturbing part is that all these raids on these madrasas and sometimes mosques, what do they get? They throw up whole huge caches of arms, weaponry, swords, homemade swords, assault rifles like AK-203s, AK-47s, and a machine gun which is capable of firing 8,000 rounds a minute. Now, what are these weapons or stockpiles for? Why? When you consider that since 1947, 600,000 new mosques have been built, are they all hiding such weaponry? Are they stockpiling? And what are they stockpiling for? Except to take over the country that we have known as India or Bharat. They've got the numbers coming in all the time from Bangladesh, possibly now from Pakistan and Afghanistan. The Chinese and the Afghans, quite normal for them to provide weaponry. The Americans have been doing it for decades. And we in India suffer. And the Americans claim to be our friends. Now you begin to understand we have to stand on our own feet. We cannot expect help from them. Now, why? Why is this happening? Who's behind it? You remember what I said? The Congress party was a Muslim League under a non-Muslim sounding name. Now you begin to understand. I've said this before, that to the Congress party, the only minorities are Muslims. And they're doing everything possible to get all the other minorities like the OBCs, the SCs, the STs and the Dalits and tribals and trying to convert them to Islam. Then they can truly say, well, there's only one minority, Muslims. And yet, can you call them a minority? When you consider less than 6% Muslims in 1947, to about 18 to 20% now, it's not a joke, it's a huge problem. Because not only is it a problem when it comes to, how shall I put it, inter-community relationships, but also when it comes to employment, distribution of our resources. Now it makes a mess of all planning that's gone on. Because Muslims do not want to control their population. The Hindus have done to a much larger extent. And they're beginning to show results. But Muslims, no way. The Hindu Code Bill puts a lot of restrictions on Hindus, but Muslims run riot. and bringing them in by the million from Bangladesh. It's not funny anymore. Because A, they create a problem when it comes to demography. In every state there is. It creates a very big unemployment problem for Indian citizens. And whatever successes have been achieved get diluted or ruined by this vast increase in population. And who are the loudest protesters when it comes to something like the CAA, the NCR, and now a uniform civil code? The Congress party and the opposition party. Why? Muslim appeasement and giving this country over to Muslims. The silly clots do not seem to understand that they too will get swallowed up. Are they that enamored of Islam? If they are, why don't they go to Bangladesh or Pakistan or Afghanistan? Those are Islamic countries. Go there. Now you see what the whole of Europe is beginning to do. The Netherlands have said, close down these mosques, no further influx of Muslims. Germany is doing the same thing, no more mosques. Italy is tearing down mosques. France has banned the wearing of hijab and things like this. And especially anybody who says they want Islamic rule or Islamic law, they get deported. Why? They want to preserve their own way of life. We would like to preserve our way of life. We do not want to be Islamic. That is what partition was all about in 1947. And who is responsible for it all? That one monstrous family. I think you know what I mean, which one I mean. I don't need to be any more specific. And even today, that family scion is doing the same thing. And most of us, we just don't have a clue. Wakey, wakey. And please take note. If you see any of these activities going on, report it to the authorities. If the authorities don't take cognizance, come to a central authority, report it there. Because look, if this continues unabated, we are going to have one hell of a civil war. Pakistan and Bangladesh and China will interfere and make a mess of this country of ours. The Chinese would love that. Why? At the moment, we're a great competitor as far as their industry and their stranglehold on the world's production or manufacturing is concerned. They don't want that disturbed. The Americans, well, their brain drain from here is being choked off. They don't like that. Where will they get their replacements from? And that too, trained personnel, trained brains. You know, things you've got here. Now you think about that. You see what all these so-called friends are trying to sort of encourage in this country, to destroy our very fabric of our lives in India. You remember Rahul Gandhi going abroad and saying, democracy is in danger. This is not democracy being practiced here. And then he said, if democracy is in danger, what are the US, the EU, and what is the UK doing about it? You remember the Mir Jafar, the Jayachands? And when you've got people in this country doing this, you've got not just a toehold, but a foothold. And people like George Soros, they love this. Because they want us to be their serfs, or their servants all over again. We're trying hard. The youngsters of today are trying hard to get out of that slave mentality. And it's guys like this dragging us back inside. You remember one of our very first videos I said, the Sardarji and his crabs, basketful. If one looks like getting out, the others pull him back inside. And this Mr. Rahul Gandhi is one of those monsters who keeps pulling everybody back inside. These guys do not want India to progress. They do not want India to go forward. Because the thinking population, they don't know how to deal with. They wouldn't know what to do. A thinking population would ask too many questions. Questions which these guys are just not capable of answering. They want to be the top dogs in this country. They want to give all the orders and to loot, pillage and plunder this country as they've been doing since 1947. Even though they be agents of somebody else. You see the pattern again. The East India Company came in as traders and took over. The Rothschilds took over the USA through their agents. They had agents everywhere. See, they financed the Rockefellers. They're also Rothschild agents. J.P. Morgan. The day he went into the US, he was already a Rothschild agent. And it is through these guys that the Rothschilds took over the USA. They even own the Federal Reserve Bank. Now they're trying to take over India. Through these Jayachands and Mir Jafars. Like it or not, if we don't agree quietly, they're going to turn us into an Islamic country. Now, why do they want us to be an Islamic country? Because Islamic countries are much easier to control. They don't think. What the guy at the top tells them, that's what they do. Why? That is the edict called Islam. If they want something done, the top person gives the order or the fatwa. Everybody else follows, without exception. You see, there is unity among them in this, unity of purpose. When that fatwa is issued, they all carry it out. We have to get together like that. And we better get together fast. Because these weapons or stockpiles of weapons are too real. And the number of Muslims who have come in from abroad, especially Bangladesh and quite a few from Pakistan, who now have Indian identities, thanks to these fake birth certificates and fake Aadhaar cards and fake PAN cards as a result, and even fake ration cards. Now, we taxpayers are paying for them to be here. We pay for all these sops which they get. Why they're minorities? Why are they minorities? Why are they minorities? I don't understand. Going back to the Constitution, when this is a secular country, and when the Constitution also guarantees equality for everybody, where's the question of a minority? How do you account for minorities under those circumstances? It doesn't make sense. And yet we have to pay them just to be here and to destroy our very fabric of life. All the progress we make, they swallow up by increasing their population and bringing in hordes of Bangladeshis. Now these Bangladeshis are spread out everywhere. And I mean everywhere. They're not all in sort of one place or one state. Every state has them. just as Rohingyas are spread out all over the place. I think I mentioned before, about 2 years ago, there was a colony of Rohingyas in Jammu, meaning Jammu and Kashmir. How did they get there? Nobody knew about it. How they were found out, I don't know. Which means, from West Bengal, there is a whole chain of people who are helping them to go not just to Jammu and Kashmir, but to Punjab, UP, Chhattisgarh, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, everywhere, even Gujarat. I mean, does it make sense? No. And yet, most of us don't seem to understand. When you see a bunch of Bangladeshis in Gujarat or in Chhattisgarh or in Karnataka, yeah, it's okay. It's only a small lot. But it's when you start counting the whole lot together, then you begin to understand the big problem. So folks, please, get up, start thinking seriously about this before it gets out of hand. Because if a civil war begins, all hell is going to break loose. Everything we worked for 70 odd years, certainly in the last 10 or 15, it go right up in smoke. We won't know where to go. Let's get that straight. It's not a joke. And I'm not fear-mongering. It is a stark reality. Remember what I said earlier at the start of this one. Please look at the previous video, which is part 1 of this, Civil War in India. Then see this one also. Put the two together and you have the picture. Any one thing on its own is meaningless. You see both of them together, you begin to understand. So please folks, spread this one to your groups, your other groups, ask them to pass it on to as many people as possible. Because this is something we better wake up to, and quickly. Bye. See you next time.